guys, it's Grace, and today I'm talking to you about walking through adversity, impacting the brain's response to stress. We've talked about adversity in this class and the negative effects that can accompany a stress response. A prolonged stress response can result in anxiety and depression. Let's take a look at how walking can influence these. One study compared 8 randomized control trials of walking as an intervention for clinical depression. They found an effect size of 0.86. Effect size measures how significant the results of the study are, and an effect size over 0.8 is considered largely significant. Another study aimed to look at the difference between indoor or outdoor walking, and found that either was beneficial in treating depression. In 2013, a systematic review of physical activity and the prevention of depression included 3 prospective studies of walking, and all of them found that walking had a protective effect. In comparing the association between walking and lower anxiety scores, in 5 cross-sectional studies, 4 showed an association. Looking at these, we can see the positive role that walking plays in mental health, and how it could be used to influence some of the negative impacts of adversity. These negative impacts arise from a prolonged stress response. First, let's refresh some key pieces. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or HPA, is the main effector in the stress response. This is made of the anterior lobe of the paraventricular nucleus, or PVN, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal gland. A stress response leads to the release of a corticotropin releasing factor, or CRF, which is located in the PVN. The CRF then goes to the pituitary gland and releases adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. The ACTH then goes to the adrenal gland and causes the release of hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. The cortisol works to turn off the stress response through the endocrine system as well as the nervous system. The hippocampus is stimulated by cortisol and signals the shutdown of the PVN. A prolonged stress response can be damaging to the body, as well as the brain, as cortisol is toxic to the neurons of the hippocampus, and in excess has been tied to depression, hypertension, fatigue, and acid reflux. So, how would walking affect this system? First, some background. One of the key players in the stress response is the limbic system. This is the emotional center of the brain, and it is made up of the hypothalamus, hippocampus, septum, cingulate gyrus, and amygdala. The limbic system provides intersecting pathways through which the excitatory transmitter norepinephrine can travel. In studies looking at the activity of the brain when walking, they found that there was higher brain activity in the premotor area, supplementary motor area, or SMA, pre-SMA, frontal and prefrontal cortex in healthy adults. There was also an increased activity in the primary motor cortex, or M1, the sensory motor areas, the occipital lobule, the anterior cingulate cortex, the parietal cortex, the basal ganglia, the temporal lobe, the visual cortex, the parahippocampal, the pons, and the cerebellum. Wow, that's a lot of activity. Monitoring brain activity of a walking individual can be difficult and requires very advanced technology. So many more studies exist using imagined walking. In comparison to lying, they found enhanced activation in cortical and subcortical structures as supplementary motor area, SMA, prefrontal cortex, cingulate cortex, parietal areas, cuneus, precuneus, putamen, insula, parahippocampal gyrus, and cerebellum. They also found an increased activation in the somatosensory cortex, the temporal cortex, and the premotor cortex. In comparing walking to standing, they found all of these enhanced activations. They also found that the more challenging walking tasks were associated with higher activity in the prefrontal areas, SMA, and areas which integrate sensory information, such as the postcentral gyrus, the occipital gyrus, the parietal gyrus, and the hippocampus. So, what does this mean? The areas of the brain responsible for stress responses and those activated when walking have an overlap. This overlap could be a source of potential research, as walking has shown to be a useful tool in treating and preventing depression and anxiety, which can both be results of prolonged stress response from adversity. can walking heal adversity? We don't quite know that yet, but what we do know is that it can help with the side effects. The benefits of walking apply to everyone, not only those facing adversity. So go for a walk. Give your brain and your body that gift. Thank you.